Hey Crosspoint, we are so excited to continue on in the series that we have been journeying through this summer called Spark, Ideas That Ignite. And today you are in for an incredibly special treat. We are sitting here in the home of our friend Ann Smith, and we are so grateful that you said yes to joining us in this kind of virtual strange way.
My pleasure.
Being a part of this series. And if you haven't met Ann yet, Ann is a giant in our movement in the Church of God. She is a person whose ideas, whose questions, the way that she thinks, the things that she communicates, have this way of sparking change, of helping people to encounter God. I know that's been true in my story and in countless others that I know. And so we're so excited just to get to sit in your living room and sit as if we're all in the same room together and just to have a conversation about some ideas that you think are really moving the needle. And so I know that there's some people that are very familiar with you, maybe have met you before or heard you speak at Crosspoint, but there are others who are meeting you for the first time. And so would you tell us just a little bit about who you are, about your story? And
Well, I am a fellow traveler. That would be one of the ways I would describe myself. I'm on a journey. And the journey is where the meaning of life is the journey. So, and I've been on this journey quite a long time. I grew up in Alabama, found my way eventually to Anderson College, married the love of my life, Nathan Smith. We spent 30 years in Asia as missionaries. Life has been good. Has not been easy, but it's been good. And I think the thing I love about life the most is that no matter what age you are, there's still yet so much to learn. You never reach that place where you don't have something new and fresh to learn. So I would say I'm a traveler. I'm a journeyer. I'm discovering. I am old, but I get so excited about what I'm learning these days, and I'm learning a lot. I'm processing a lot.
well, and we've been talking some and about we've been talking a lot actually, but some
true.
about just the challenges of the last few years and the difficulties that the pandemic and just the culture have brought for so many. And I love the way that you see opportunities in the midst of this season that we're in the world. And so would you talk to us a little bit about opportunities?
And I could approach that from several things. Because of my age, I experience increasing limitations as the years go by. And one of my real desires is that I will see the increasing limitations not as barriers, because when I see them as barriers, I resent them, but I see them as boundaries. And so if I see them as boundaries, within that new boundary, I am free then to discover the best way to live within that. So when the pandemic came along, and of course, pandemic has had enormous impact on our culture, on our churches, on our politics. It's impacted everything. Our medical profession. I mean, there are many people leaving the medical profession because of burnout during the pandemic. So, but I will truthfully say, it really had an impact on me, of course, because I lost so many friends to the virus because of my age group, and just right here in Anderson, I know at least 24, 25 people who died from the virus. So it did have an impact on me. But I never did feel isolated. I live alone, but I live near Anderson University, and I have a 2-car garage that is attached to my house. And so I put a table and 4 chairs out in my garage, and I raised the garage doors and put a portable heater out there and some blankets, and everybody was required to wear a mask, and they were free to come. And I had hours and hours and hours of rich conversations and just journeying together. It was just absolutely incredible. So that was one of the things that was really important to me. But the pandemic also set me on a journey of processing some things that I maybe would not have processed in quite the same way. I've been processing community. I remember way back when Dr. Massey was being interviewed to become the dean of the seminary. We were sitting in a room, and somebody looked across the room at Dr. Massey and said, "Dr. Massey, what do you think God's agenda for the world is?" And Abby, he didn't miss a heartbeat. I mean, he didn't even have to breathe. It just came out of his mouth. He said, "God's agenda for the world is the shaping of community around the person of Jesus Christ." Wow, he's right. I mean, so profound, so simple, but so difficult. And so the pandemic brought that to my mind. And then I started thinking about community, because we were robbed of community in so many, many ways. I mean, face to face. And I got to thinking that what's happening in our culture is that we're forming so many communities, all kinds of communities. We have a white supremacy community, we have a Black Lives Matter community, we have a pro-life community, we have a pro-choice community, we have a Proud Boys community. You name it, we've got all of these communities that are having great loyalty to these communities. And I got to thinking about that, and I thought, wow, every single one of these communities is built around an issue. So what would it look like if instead of being built around an issue, we were built around the person of Jesus Christ? Then we could deal with the issues if we had a community built around the person of Jesus Christ. But because we are building communities around issues, we are becoming more and more divided, more and more un-Christ-like in the way we relate to each other, more and more just plain nasty in our dialogue with each other. So I'm thinking about that, and one of the things that I think is really challenging for the church now is how to build a community around the person of Jesus Christ instead of around issues. And what would that look like? And how would it change the way we deal with the issues that are real issues, important issues, crucial issues? But it's not the issue that is our problem, it's the way we handle it and the way we deal with it that I think. So that's one of the things I've been processing, along with others. But
Yeah. As you say that, I think about how baffling it has been to watch the way that our images of who Jesus was can sometimes be so different. Even as we read the same scripture, as we have been formed in the same churches. Right. And so I'm curious, would you talk more about kind of what is your vision of what a community built around the person of Jesus looks like? What are some markers of that kind of a community?
Well, we throw the word love around a great deal. Yeah. I hear that word over and over and over again. We use it so casually and so, I don't know, as if we don't really understand what the word means. And so I certainly think that we would have a loving spirit if we built a community around the person of Jesus Christ. We would also have an awareness that nobody has all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. I'm amazed, and when I look at where I was 50 years ago and where I am now, we are increasingly being shaped into the image of Jesus Christ. We don't jump from here to here. And so we've got to learn to accept people and give them space to grow. I think one of the difficulties in the church is we often do not give people the space to grow. So that's one of the things that would be a quality of, and that by that I mean we live so much of our lives on expectations instead of expectancy, and you've heard me talk about that, and probably the people who are listening now have heard me talk about it because it's just so crucial to me. When we have an expectation and it's really important to us and that expectation is not met, we become blinded to all the good there is that surrounds that one expectation that's not being met. When I was growing up, my grandmother, if we would start criticizing somebody or putting somebody down, she'd always say, maybe he can whistle. I think we need a lot of people who have that attitude and spirit of looking at everybody else and say, well, maybe he can whistle. Because in spite of all of the things that we disagree with in a person, if we really look for it, we can find ways. For one thing, we're all created in God's image. Nobody has all the answers. So it's starting with the spirit of awareness that I am so thrilled over what I have learned up to this point, but I am open to learning new things. I am open, and I am open to change. I find it absolutely incredible, Abby, when I get to thinking about the never-changing God, who is the same yesterday, today, and forever, is the God of change. Now, how do we as human beings put those two together? But we need to struggle with that, and we need to embrace that there is a great deal of mystery about this faith journey. And when we can acknowledge that there is the mystery, I don't have all the answers, but I am serving someone who who has the wisdom and all of it that I do not have. And so a spirit of humility in this journey and extending that grace to every person and giving them space to grow.
Yeah.
Space to grow is so important to me. It's not where a person is now. If I see even the tiniest little sprig of green, wow, that is such potential. I've noticed that among Americans who are engaged in recreation, a lot of times they have to hurry up and finish this game so they can start the next one. And they're not really totally present in the game they're doing because they're thinking about what they're going to do next. Or I think it's easy for us, particularly people who are employed, who have families, who have all of these demands that are on life, it's easy to never be totally present. Your mind is divided. I first became really aware of that in Japan. We were living in Imajuku, and a group of women came into a home weekly, and we would sit in the kotatsu. Well, the kotatsu is a place where you sit on the floor and you drop your feet down in this place, and you have a little fire down in there so to keep your feet warm. Anyway, these women would come and they'd chit-chat, and all the time they were chit-chatting about superficial things, but important things, but not the essence of life. All the time they were doing that, I would be listening and I could make appropriate responses, but one half of me would be doing a grocery list or thinking about the laundry that I needed to do, or doing a lesson plan for a class I was going to be teaching, or it could be anything. But one half of me could make all the appropriate responses to the conversation that was going on, and I would at the same time be doing something else. We reward multitasking in our culture.
We do. Yeah.
And we reward drivenness. Drivenness is a disease in our country, and it robs us of the joy of the journey. I often, when I'm talking with young pastors, often I will take a sheet of paper and I'll draw a line down the center and I'll put passion on one side and drivenness on the other. Passion and drivenness are so different. passion can be renewed. It's being fed. It's being renewed. And I've watched pastors cross that line from passion into drivenness and don't even know they've crossed the line. Drivenness at some point will lead you to a degree of burnout. Passion has to do with people and purpose and goals and that sort of thing. Drivenness has to do with task. In order to savor, we've got to learn how to be in the present. I don't have a guarantee of the next minute. You don't have a guarantee of the next minute. All I have is what's happening right now as we sit here.
Right.
And if I miss that, I'm not equipped for the next moment. Because I've allowed myself to be divided, and I will be divided in the next one. So being present, and being present has to do with listening. Rachel Rimmen has a statement about listening that I've just discovered it. She says, listening creates a sanctuary for the homeless parts of the other person.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? Listening
Will you say that one more time? Yeah.
listening creates a sanctuary for the homeless parts of the other person. A sanctuary to me is a sacred place. It's a safe place. It's a nurturing place. It's all of those things. But when I listen and I'm trying to figure out how to fix your problem, or I'm trying to figure out what advice to give you, or whatever it is, instead of creating this sanctuary for the homeless parts of this part is homeless of you right now. So listening and being present, and allowing it to get from your head to your heart. We need to listen with our emotions as well as with our intellect. Allow ourselves to feel. But I don't like to feel somebody else's pain. I don't like to feel pain, period. It's the gift that nobody wants. Yeah. And pain is a great gift. Philip Yancey and Paul Brand wrote a book called Pain, the Gift That Nobody Wants. I visited the leprosy colony in Korea. We had a very dear friend who was doing surgery for leprosy patients, and we spent 10 days in their home. I went to the leprosy colony. I went into surgery where they were doing a surgery on these leprosy patients. I think you're probably aware, a leper can feel no pain.
Oh,
A leper can stick his hand in a pot of boiling hot water and feel nothing. That is the most devastating way to live that you could possibly make, because you feel no pain. Pain it is a gift. It tells us something is wrong, and you need to give it attention. But anyway, being in the leprosy colony was an eye-opener for me, and I learned to be grateful for pain. It's an indication that something is wrong. But one of the things I have learned is you can be in pain and have joy, but you can't be happy. If I'm in pain, I am not a happy camper. So it's not a thing of elevating pain to something that you seek or anything like that. It's just saying, if you stop and think about it, the fact that you are in pain is an indication to you that you need to give attention to something that is robbing you of quality of life right now.